Hello, what's up everyone? My name is Marek Shuttle and I am Hackitect and this is Hackitect Playground. Today we'll talk about AirIAM and I'm not talking about the Commander IAM from Star Trek Discovery. I'm talking about the least privileged Terraform framework for making your Terraform and your roles in AWS much better. So let's kickstart that. What is a least privilege? Least privilege is granting the privileges to the APIs or to the services that your employees, developers, or engineers really need, and not granting the permissions, basically the default deny, to the services or APIs they don't need. So it means the minimal privilege needed to perform the specific job or role. And if they will need more, they can have a normal request to improve their privileges or to improve the role. But least privilege is a generic principle in IT security to maintain the minimal access rights to avoid privilege elevation or unauthorized access to the data. It's so simple. But to basically have some better insight, we need to go inside this framework and look how it can be done with Terraform. Today we'll talk about least privilege execution framework for Terraform called AirIAM. This framework is pretty useful when you want to have least privilege in your Terraform and in your IAM in your cloud accounts in AWS. So what you can do, you can follow me, you can install AirIAM and you can find the installation progress in or the process itself in the GitHub repo. So it's very simple. You can use Python or you can use Homebrew to install that tool. I will skip this part because it's boring and it's pretty simple. So let's go to AirIAM. AirIAM. Name is very similar to the lady from the new series of Star Trek. That's not a coincidence. And let's go and let's check what we can do with this tool. AirIAM -H. And it takes a few seconds. So this is the least privileged IAM Terraformer. It works with Terraform and it can recreate your privilege in IAM or for AWS to Terraform. So there are very three simple parts that you can use. You can find unused and you can exclude this unused part from your Terraform code. You can recommend groups and it works with three different groups: with admins, power users, and with the read only. So it can separate your users in three different groups and it can help you to create very simple separation of duties between different groups of the people in your organization running your AWS accounts. And then you can terraformize your runtime AWS IAM configuration. That's something that I really recommend to do. For that, you will need to have two different branches, the original one and the new one, and then you need to create a div between these two branches. So first thing that we will do, we will find unused. It works with the default profile. So IAM, and it works with the default profile. So that means that it works with your AWS credentials or your environment variables. And I will use find unused. It's very simple. And what it will do, it will find your unused entities in your IAM. That means the policies, users, unused, and hit enter. What it will do, it will basically get my credentials for this account that I'm using here as my demo account. And you see here that it is looking into AWS credentials. That's the first thing that it will do. And then it will connect to the API to my account and it will find the unused entities. Based on this, it can do a very simple thing. It can create a list of the unused entities and you can exclude it from a Terraform and then you can basically delete it from your account based on this very simple and very easy to use tool. And it can also recommend the groups. And you see here that I have two other users like Backup Marek and Hackitect that they are not used, and I have 24 roles that are not used. And the following three groups are redundant. So my administrators, Avengers, my Avengers, and finance Avengers. They are no members, but these three groups are redundant. So that means if you have something in common in these groups and they have the same permissions or similar users, it will tell you the redundancy. And following four policies are redundant. So I have these two Lambda execution role. It looks that they are very similar. And also the SNS publish policy execution role also and sneak lambda policy are very similar. That are the execution policies or roles, my execution roles for my lambda, and they are very similar, so they are redundant. And there are no unused policy attachments. This is very good in my account. Hooray! That's really good thing to know. And if I want to create the Terraform for that, if I want to terraformize all of these things, so what I can do, so I'll say, okay, AirIAM, Terraform, and I can use H to tell me what I can do. And here comes the magic. What I can do with that, I can basically call any profile that I have configured in my credentials. I can export it to any directory I want, and I can create the Terraform without unused. This is very interesting. So I can exclude all the unused things, and I can say the last used threshold. So that's something that we will create. The default is 90, and I will use 40 days. And also you can exclude the import from your AWS account, and it is using AWS IAM Access Analyzer on the back end. If I will say it like that, it's not on the back end, but it is using that as a part of the engine. And also there's some internal logic behind that. And they did pretty good work for this with this open source tool. So what I can do, and I will say AirIAM Terraform, and what I want to do is without unused. That's one of the things that I will say. Okay, without unused. But what I wanted to say also, the threshold that I will use, I will say, okay, I will put it to 40. So last 40 days, any entity that was not used for last 40 days will be excluded. I will hit enter, and then what it will do, yes, you cannot use it for root. You cannot use it for root account, so that's very similar. You cannot use specific function. That means the groups will not work for your root account. And I'm using here only the unused entities that will help us to understand what we can exclude. And what I really recommend is to create the diff between your current Terraform and the Terraform created by this tool. So here it will take few moments, and you see that it is importing the policies from my account, and it is taking the service roles, it is taking the roles for my code pipeline, for everything that I was using for different demos or for my semi-production services. I don't have any production services running in this account, but for all of these things that are used, or in my case unused for loss, with exclusion of like last 40 days. So I will stop the video now, and when I will get all of the policies, we'll start again. Here is my Visual Studio Code fully open, and I will go to main. I will show you that the main is very simple. You cannot expect too much. It's auto-generated code with the release privilege, so you cannot expect all the setup for your HashiCorp providers, and so that is very simple provider, and you see that there is a US East provider by default. I can see here in the groups that there are the groups that are used. So I have group for full admin YouTube administrator managed, and also I have my S3 group for the S3 bucket access, and also another policy attachments for these. So it's very simple for the groups. So I have just very easy to run, very easy to manage groups, and I'm not using that by default. And then there are policies, and this is one of the biggest part of the Terraform. There are data that are stored in the policies, that is using data and definition of the documents, and you have all the statements for your policies and the versions of the policies and the SIDs, the identifiers of your policies. and the actions that are allowed or disallowed for the specific statements, so that you will get all of these things in your policies.tf. And here you have basically all the statements. You see here, for example, there's AWS IAM policy document, and there is a Lambda basic execution role, which allows create log group for this account for all the principles. And here create the log stream, and you can put log events. So that means that this Lambda will be allowed to put new logs into new log group. And you see here also that it counts for this filter engine Lambda. So this resource can do it. And that's not everything. When you will go to roles, you will find your roles. It is not small document, but you'll, in my case, yes, because I excluded lots of things. But you see here that there is this serverless top 10 role that I used several days on my speech about the serverless top 10. And also there is our attachments. There's a SNCC role, and it says that which policy. That means that it takes the data from our policies. It references the assume role policy document, the JSON, and it also, when you are looking for the policies managed by this great tool, you need to look at AirIAM by Bridgecrew, that means managed by, and managed through Terraform. So that are two new tags added by default into your Terraform. And that's pretty it. When you will check the users, there are no users because it basically excluded my 2 users that are not used. And that's the beauty of this tool. Also, you have this TF state backup and TF state. And I really recommend to you to check the differences between your current Terraform and this one. And you will be very surprised what you can reach with that. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you will be able to recreate the same thing, and you will be able to follow my steps. I have a few tips around AirIAM that will help you to basically get the details of the changes that you are introducing to your production environment or at all to your environment. So what you can do first, you commit to your original branch with AirIAM imported Terraform. That's something that you will do all the time, but first at all, for like comparison, you really need to have a baseline. What you will do after, you will commit your least privileged Terraform, is it? Or Terraformized? I don't know how you want to pronounce it, but you will commit your least privileged Terraform, change with AirIAM, without unused entities or like with your groups that you already prepared. So these 2 commits in 2 different branches are very good to compare. And I would recommend to keep it in different branch for backwards compatibility or to doing some changes or having great separation of what's the baseline and then what are the changes that you are introducing to your environment. And then what you should run is a diff. So basically run the diff utility between these 2 branches to see the differences between the imported Terraform and then the least privileged Terraform that you created with this great tool. And that's something that I really want to point out. That's super important, and it will help you a lot to get insights in the changes that you are introducing to your AWS environment. I really want to thank you for watching this channel, watching this episode, spending time with me. Only thing what you can do for me is like this video, comment or subscribe, and you will make me happy, and that's what I want. And I want you to be happy.